Wasn't folded.
My belly was all down.
You got a plug?
Are we on? There's no light.
Welcome to the SVSU School Board meeting. And I'm going to start off, we did have an executive session, but there was no action, so we'll go right to public comments. Is there any public comments? Okay.
Hi, my name's Lori Mulhern. I'm a Bennington resident and a parent. And I wanted to come to the board today over my concerns regarding the structure of the SVSU moving out of this, or at the end of this school year. Because I'm concerned about the fact that we won't have a superintendent in place, I'm assuming by then, in addition to the fact that we are losing our assistant superintendent, and we just recently hired an HR manager. And I'm looking at this as not having enough structure in place to move forward through the challenges that we have to move through over the next few months in regards to structure, special ed programming, transitional meetings, budget constraints, and preparing our students and our staff for next year. And I was wondering if anyone on the SVSU board has had these discussions that I just may not be privy to, but can you share with me, like, how, with all of this knowledge, like, how are we going to support our educational staff and the families and students without this administration in place?
Well, I can answer. Before you came in, Lori, the Fran Kinney, Vice Chair, filling in for the Chair of SVSU, did say that there would be a status report on the interim superintendent in public session. He's planning to do that under his report. Also, there's a nomination today on the consent agenda for the Director of Special Ed because Wendy Pierce has been filling in as interim director, so that's on the agenda today. The Personnel Committee will be taking up at the SU in May the special ed organizational structure again out of the focus monitoring report, and we'll be looking at that position of senior director versus assistant superintendent. We've already have in the budgets, of course we have some budget action that still needs to happen, but there are the associate directors, 2 associate directors there. The intent of the board has been that the assistant superintendent position would remain vacant until a superintendent was named, and then a search would begin for that. I think that answers your question. So the Personnel Committee will be the next. That meeting has not been set yet in May.
Well, I guess to be honest, I understand and I appreciate your feedback regarding special education and the structure, and I do appreciate the work that's being done in those areas. However, my main concern is overall, I think not just for special education, but regular education, and the fact that we're going into contract negotiations, and there's so many different things up in the air. I'm just really perhaps not as confident as I should be in the fact that we're really going to make sure that we have this support in place for our educators and for the paraprofessionals and for the students. And this is my primary concern moving forward because we still don't have that budget approved yet either for the BSD. So anyway, my concerns are voiced here. I'm hoping, and I'm sure you can all clone yourselves and jump in wherever needed, but I'm really hopeful that we can survive this.
We will.
We will.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lori. There will be more advertisement anyway. Okay. Next. Kathy, you want
Yes.
to go into the presentation?
I'm very happy this evening to have committee members from the Focus Monitoring Committee and Wendy Pierce, Interim Director of Special Education, here to report to you our response, the work that they've been doing in response to the Agency of Education's on-site visit last year for focused monitoring of federal and state compliance in special ed. Wendy?
Good evening. I'd first like for the team to come up so we can introduce. We are missing a few members. Karen Burnell, who is the Director of Early Education. Kitty Lear, who is a parent of a high school student, and Charlie Jingo, who was our facilitator for the meeting. And then I'd love for the group to come up and introduce themselves so you can see who they are and see who the members are that worked on this project so far.
Hi, my name's Kim Miller. I'm a special educator at Molly Stark School.
In Miller.
Hi, Deb Kennedy, parent of a high school student.
Dave Ballou, I'm a parent of a middle student.
Hi, I'm Christy Pringle, and I'm a parent of an early ed student.
Hi, Donna Mackenzie King, principal at Molly Stark.
Tara Sky, parent of a high school and elementary school student.
Thank you. The committee is in response to a focus monitoring report that was conducted by the Agency of Education. Focus monitoring was designed to assess the compliance with federal and state special education laws and regulations while still addressing the critical performance areas that were completing in special education. There are a number of schools that are determined each year to need this focus monitoring. How their criteria depends on what's going on within the schools. For example, if there's something that steps up to the committee about a concern, that's how they choose the supervisory unions to focus monitor. The reason that the SVSU was selected this year was the performance on State Performance Plan Indicator 5 regarding the least restrictive environment. And that's how much time a child spends in general education compared to special education, and the dropout rate for special education students. The information was based on the 2010 and 2011 data. From this chart, you can see that from the state target and the state percentages in the SVSU, we had a high percentage of or a lower percentage than the state target in 80% or more general education setting, a higher percentage in 40% or less general education setting, and that was what the big concern was, that we had students who were in the special education setting students in the special education or the general education setting less than 40% of the time. And that was where the big concern was for them. Then we had separate settings outside the public school, and as you can see, this is a high point for us, that we have only around 3% who are going outside of our setting, like to other residential or day program settings. And that's one of the things that we really try to keep our students within our communities rather than sending them outside of our communities. And at times that puts our numbers up in that 40% or less in the general education environment. That's why we feel our numbers are larger in that area.
But may I ask a question? It says the last line was uncounted in the 41 to 79%?
Correct. They kind of discount that middle ground. They say how many people are in the 80% or more and how many people are in the 40% or less. And that middle area kind of
So
gets
that's the
discounted.
percentage that
They say,
is a residual.
right, they say that's just middle ground. We're not concerned about that. We want to look at the top and the lower halves. These were just some numbers about the school year, the state averages for our students on IEPs in the general education setting. And I know this is a little bit difficult to see on the slides, and I apologize, but we will be posting this on the website so people in the community can see this and look at it more. But I wanted to include this information so that people could see it, that where our numbers have gone up and down compared to the state averages, which help, again, indicate that the SVSU would be focused monitored. The dropout rate
Extremely high.
was another one of the indicators why we were focused monitored. And as you can see, the SVSU special education dropout rate has been declining. We're trying to put a lot of programs and incentives in place to help students stay in schools. So we are going down, and this is actually part of our accommodations, that we are decreasing our dropout, we're increasing our dropout prevention and decreasing our dropout rates for special education students. The monitoring report focused on staff surveys, on-site interviews with parents and teachers, record reviews, and classroom observations. So the AOE came down and spent a week looking at all of these things. They interviewed parents, they interviewed staff members, they interviewed students. They went into their programs around the various buildings. They just would kind of do walk-through checks to look at all the program designs and look at the classrooms. And then they did huge record reviews. They called up around 60 files and went through those files extensively, looking at making sure that meeting notices were sent, that consent for special education was signed, that IEPs were in the right order, that they were in compliance according to dates, that you had an IEP every year within those specific dates. So following through with all that, that's what they focused on. We received several commendations. I didn't put all the commendations in here, but some of the ones that we as a team thought were important, that when they came down and viewed, we have evidence of good team teaching models that were observed at the high school and the middle school. And they have said that several times about the models that we're doing at the high school and the middle school, that they're excellent. Our professional learning communities, such as those described in the interviews with the staff at Pownell and Monument schools, were commended for their support of their teachers, programs, students, and classrooms. Oh, sorry. I'm not good with the technology, I apologize. The elementary schools in Shaftsbury, Woodford Hollow, and North Bennington were commended through their parental interviews of their high level of parental involvement. And the early childhood program and essential early ed staff was commended for their development and maintenance of the collaborative relationships with the local Head Start and community-based pre-K partners. And again, these are not all the accommodations we received. There were several. The development and implementation of before, such as breakfast programs or before school entry students, and after school programs such as Mosaic program at Mount Anthony Union Middle School and homework clubs at many of the elementary schools were commended in response to the students, family, and community educational and social needs.
Question?
Yes, sir.
Can you go back one slide?
Oh, let's see. Oh.
Well, I'll ask the question. So it shows, I forget which is which, but,
Oh, no, yeah.
okay, so it's saying that Shaftsbury and others are commended for high parental involvement, and Pownell, it's mute on Pownell. Pownell is not commended for, because the Pownell, then Shaftsbury, it says Pownell is commended for this, and Shaftsbury is commended for.
Let me try to go back.
That means the opposites aren't true?
No.
I think what it means is there was
Okay.
abundance of evidence of parent involvement at those locations when they did their on-sites. It doesn't mean it was absent at the others.
No.
But you'll see more about.
Okay, because, all right, so it's saying it's silent on parental involvement at Pownell, but comments on it at Shaftsbury.
No,
But-
and-
And doesn't comment on Shaftsbury for supportive teachers programs.
No.
Well,
And I think what they tried to do was pick several things at all the different schools and highlight some of the things that were highest at those schools. But
This is not quantitative, this is
No.
just, okay.
Yes,
Thank
these
you.
were just accommodations that they noticed about our schools and our supervisory union as a whole. The triangulated areas for improvement. We had 4 triangulated areas for improvement. And what these are these are the areas that the AOE identified through this focus monitoring that we really need to focus on. And what they said was they had to have 3 substantiating evidences to say that this is what it was. Because anybody could say, well, this is an area of concern. But they needed 3 different sources saying that. So what they came up with was these 4 tackies. And members of the team are going to speak about each taffy so we can explain it a little bit more. And again, we made charts about the taffies. And I know you can't see them in this, but they will be in the information that we put online.
And they received them as well. They received the report as well.
Thank you. So taffy number 1.
Thanks, Wendy. I have Taffy number 1. My name is Dave Ballou again. And from the very...
Could you speak up, sir?
Yep.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yes.
A little better? Okay.
That's going to the TV. It doesn't amplify necessarily.
Oh, okay. I'll talk a bit louder. From our first meeting, our goal was to do what's best for special education children, the students, and to respond to the TAFIs without any regard to finances or budgets. And I'd also wanted to thank Richard for taking excellent notes on very complex topics and a variety of perspectives that we had in our group. And Charlie Jingo for keeping us focused on our tasks and responsibilities. We probably wouldn't be here if we didn't have everybody focused and everybody taking notes on this. I don't think you can read Taffy 1. Let me read what Taffy 1 says for the folks on TV. The SVSU's recent reduction and restructuring of administrative staffing at the central office has resulted in confusion regarding decision-making at IEP meetings, special education programs, entrance and exit criteria, and lines of communication between central office, school administration, and parents. And if you're following in the focus monitoring report, that's on page 14 on the very bottom, the required evidences of correction. But up there on the matrix, we're going to go with A, B, and C for the 3 areas of correction. The first one, A, they want documentation to the Vermont Agency of Education about the collaborative team meetings, dates, and parties in attendance. And if you look at the chart, the first box, the implementation status, has all the dates that we met, and we met for about 3 hours at each one of these meetings. And we have meeting minutes, that's our documentation. And all the people that you met were committee members. So that actually suffices for the area of correction for A. B is where the fun started. B says we have to provide documentation to the Agency of Education about the chain of command, the decision-making process developed by the collaborative team. So we asked, what is the special ed chain of command? And we did not have a document to go by. So we talked about it, and we said, well, what's the chain of command? And the more we asked what the chain of command was, we had varying opinions. And we all thought we knew what it was, and the more we talked about it, the more confusion we had. Things between buildings, different language being used between buildings. Asked, do PTs and SLPs, are they under the principal in the buildings, or are they under the special ed director? Who's in charge? So we had a lot of complicated things. So on page 2, on this next one, you'll see figure 1, which is our chain of command, or the proposed, you see our current chain of command, and that says a lack of clarity. Currently, each district's chain of command is different. But we were asked to come up with a chain of command. So underneath it, you'll see the proposed SVSU 2014 moving forward chain of command. And on there, we have the classroom teacher, special ed case manager, principal, associate director, special ed director, superintendent, and then the AOE with the federal protections of administrative complaints, mediation, and due process. That is the current, or what we'd like to see moving forward. After that, we were trying, when we made the chain of command, we were trying the best we could to keep in mind that the decision needs to be made at the lowest level, closest to the child. So when we made that chain of command, that's what we came up with. I just want to highlight one thing or 2 things that were on the chain of command. The first one is the associate director position. That is a new position, and we felt that that's an essential piece to the organization. And you'll see throughout this report and through the other TAFIs that communication between all the parties is a common theme, and it's critical in this organizational chart to have this position. This person would help with LEA questions at IEP meetings, answer complex questions about special education, especially with the Common Core coming online. I can anticipate a lot of questions how the Common Core and special ed is going to happen. And we found out that other supervisory unions have this position, and they have less students. And we all know that we have a rising population of special ed students, and we felt that this was a needed, necessary position. And that's all I'm going to say about that particular TAFE. That is TAFE B. And on the third one, the third TAFE asked us to, how do we tell people about that chain of command and organizational structure? And we do that in a variety of ways. That's on the chart there. And we're going to do that in a variety of ways, and incorporating it into the employee handbook, the student handbook, a letter of introduction to parents by the case managers, putting it in the first aid packets, talk about it and handing it out at annual IEP meetings, putting it on the special ed website, and in the proposed SVSU Special Education Handbook. And those are the three areas that we were required to report to in TAFE number 1. And I'll bring it to TAFE 2. TAFE 2?
I'm going to change the slide.
Could I ask a question? On your proposed special ed reorganization, how do you qualify to be a head teacher? You've got head teacher in all the various districts. How do you qualify to be a head teacher? What qualifications do you need to be a head teacher?
We didn't, right, we didn't, right.
Special ed reorganization.
Right. We didn't go into job descriptions or any of that.
Do we have any?
We do have job descriptions for head teachers. We have job descriptions for the associate directors, the director of special education. And we do have those, but the design for this was not to go into the logistics of all that. It was mainly to talk about what resources we thought we would need to carry out and be compliant with all the federal and state guidelines.
I think to add to that, Wendy, thank you, is the qualification would be they have to be a certified teacher, and this is usually a stipend per the collective bargaining agreement, which is given to a teacher who does additional work to coordinate and give some management, not administration, but management of meetings and department meetings and things like that. So I think
That's the qualification?
yeah, the teacher. And they have to be a teacher, and they have to have an approved head teacher stipend, and it's all, the amount of money is, and responsibilities are in the collective bargaining agreement as well as the job description.
No particular training in special education?
There would be,
They
for
would be
head teacher,
special
there would be
ed
a special
teacher.
education teacher.
It would be a
In
special ed.
special ed, they would be special ed, but we also have head teachers who are regular teachers in regular education.
My other question is this, I'm the Senior Director of Special Education. Is that you?
I'm the interim, we really don't have a senior director right now.
So this proposal is not anything that's been accepted?
No,
That's
this
correct.
is what the team felt after many hours of discussion, we would need to move forward and be in compliance, because the gist of a lot of this report was that we're not in compliance.
That's right.
Because of, staffing, supervision, the follow-through, all of that.
All right.
So what we said was, okay, how do we get ourselves in compliance? One of the things that Mr. Blue was talking about was, we have, around 620 special education students. There's currently one director. Following through with all the pieces that need to be followed through with is very difficult. So when we started talking about that, we started saying, what pieces do we need in place to make sure that this is not a question when they monitor us in 3 years?
Okay.
The Personnel Committee will be taking this up, George, and then it
Yeah.
comes to the board. That's
Okay.
the procedure, and they've already had a couple of meetings where the Personnel Committee had been talking about senior director versus
Okay,
assistant
fine.
superintendent.
Thanks.
Looking at the reorganization chart, and specifically at the head teacher, I see that the principal is out of the chain of command. Is that correct? The head teacher reports to the associate director, which reports to the senior director. So there is a clear special ed chain of command.
In the reorganization, for this portion of it, it would be, yes, the special education teacher to the head teacher to the associate director to the director.
So that the Pownell principal is relieved of some
In the Correct. In the chain of, yes, in the chain of command of how, moving forward, how special education would operate, the principals would be relieved of a great deal of the LEA duties, going to meetings, overseeing the meetings, overseeing a lot of the, not daily supervision, but supervision of special education staff, helping do schedules, helping follow through with evaluation, those pieces that the principals would be relieved of.
So Wendy, I just want one clarification. The head teachers cannot supervise colleagues, so they're not administrators. So if a teacher's going to a head teacher, it's usually about a coordination thing among the department. But for supervisory responsibility, it would be the associate director, principal first, and then associate director, and so on.
So continuing with that, I understand, correct me if I'm wrong, an assistant principal can give direction.
Could be an assistant principal.
So for an extra $10, do we get, why not make the head teacher and an assistant principal so they have some actionable authority over what's going on when it happens?
Yeah. They just can't. The assistant
take
principal can
responsibility for the
supervise.
situation.
A head teacher cannot supervise.
Because the head teacher...
A head teacher can coordinate. They cannot supervise or evaluate
But
a...
we have a head teacher in every building that can't control anything. Just an idea,
And again, this is a proposal. Does it have to be carried out to every extent?
It would be licensed to be an assistant
And a lot of what the head
administrator.
teachers will do are help organize things.
Right.
Help get, we have to do Medicaid reimbursement paperwork. They will help get that Medicaid reimbursement paperwork together, check through it, make sure it's all, everything's signed, and then send it on to central office. To organize a department meeting, to make sure that all the teachers in the department know that the meeting is going to be on the first Wednesday of every month at 2:30.
And all these discussions will happen again at the Personnel Committee meeting but thank you for bringing them up.
Any more questions? Okay, Taffy, questions? Okay, Taffy 2.
Taffy 2 reads, "The SVSU has a long history of providing education and services to students with disabilities and alternative programs, lessening the percentage of time these students spend in general education environment with non-disabled peers." Within this Taffy, there was 4 required evidences. The first one was looking at the IEPs to ensure that the percentages listed on the IEPs that were selected for this focused monitoring piece were accurate. That piece was done and submitted to the department and accepted. The second part of that was looking at the 2013 child count and making sure that was accurate, and then ensuring that it would be an ongoing process to ensure that it was, in fact, accurate. The second required evidence looked at our restraint policy and procedures and the line of communication that happened to make sure that parents were notified, superintendent was notified, teachers were notified, so that there was a clear procedure in place to take care of that. The third required evidence talked about the entrance and exit criteria for each of our alternative programs. We're working on that. Not all of them are fully implemented, but they are in progress of being looked at and reviewed. The fourth required evidence looked at the alternative programs curriculum, and within that, looking at making sure that progress reports were being filled in, that the IEP goals and objectives was actually being monitored and reported on. The other piece to that looked at ensuring that the lesson plans were aligned to the general ed and to the grade specific to each child. And the next piece that's been implemented and working on is making sure that a monthly report is being submitted to Ms. Pierce, looking at the students that are entering and exiting any programs, and also any attempts to reintegrate students into the general education setting.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Okay, Taffy 3.
Hi, can you hear me back there?
Yep.
Okay, I'm Christy Pringle, and mine kind of overlaps with Dave's here. It's Taffy 3. It has a lot to do with communication staff training procedures and timelines and that sort of thing. We were, I guess some parents had reported that requested information had, for IEPs and different process, or due process hearings, was not being, taken care of or acknowledged in a timely manner. So what we did was we implemented on 8/29/2013 a full staff training on evaluation procedures and compliance training, and it was conducted by the AOE. And a roster has already been sent to the AOE, and we are going to be doing a building-based refresher every year. Let's see, also, excuse me, my glasses are a little old prescription here. We were also found that in the fall of 2012 and 2013 school year, some parents were given written notification on a lack of occupational therapy available for their IEPs and how to obtain them through a medical facility locally, but some parents did not receive that. They didn't receive it until a board member meeting in November.
That's correct.
Which is, big discrepancy and everything. So what we did was we developed, or it's in development, a good outline has been developed, and it's for a specific procedure on the notification of parents when an IEP service is not available, and that is being written and reviewed. It will be reviewed in an administrative meeting by August 1st, 2014. And there was also, and I think we already talked about this because it also goes into Dave's taffy, it was the lack of clarity and contradictory information of who to go talk to when you have a problem. And it really falls into the whole chain of command. Like, as I'm the early education parent rep, and I really don't know who to go to or what a chain of command is. So coming into it, I had no idea, and it's really complicated when it got down to it being different, almost building to building. Some of the teachers didn't know. It actually took me a year and a half to get my daughter on a 504 because they kept sending me around different places because nobody knew. And I think there was actually changes happening in the works that probably confused people. So we came up with a chain of command. Obviously, the one now is pretty much different from building to building. But the next one he already outlined, going from classroom teacher to special education case manager, principal, associate director, so on and so forth. And also, to add to that, I'm really excited about this, especially being new to the whole process. There is a parent handbook that is to be created by September of 2015. That's to help the new parents get some more clarification of how to go about different things or who to speak to.
Excellent.
And that's my taffy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, taffy 4.
Okay, Taffy 4 states, concerns regarding the hiring practice, the training of staff, and the delivery of special education services in the supervisory union's more restrictive placements were evident. So the required evidences under this category, A, speaks about a staff survey needing to be developed for the Vermont Department of Education, where we would document trainings to address the needs derived from an analysis from the survey. This is not implemented at this time, but we will be developing a survey and implementing the survey and analyzing that. B, the submission to the Vermont Agency of Education of the IEP review documenting the current delivery system implemented within the supervisory union operating alternative programs, as well as the SVSU response to the findings of those. What this will require in the alternative programs is for us to review IEPs, determine who is responsible for delivering those special ed services, and then follow up for IEP meetings. And C and D, the last two here, sort of go hand in hand. What we're asked to do is create job descriptions for staff assigned to these alternative programs, and then D, create a procedure for really determining reassignment of special ed staff based on their expertise. Perhaps it's training that they've had, specific interest, and matching those two categories up with each other. To develop this, we would also add into our 2014-15 handbook, employee handbook, there'd be trainings the first week on any new procedures, and our para expertise list would also be developed by September of 2014. And this again goes back to looking at our paraprofessionals. Where are their strengths? Are they placed in the right program? Does someone else with more expertise need to be shifted into another program? And the timeline for identifying this and helping paras and teachers be able to shift between programs developed on their expertise. Any questions on that? I would also just like to add, just very quickly, that this whole experience of working with a team of administrators, teachers, parents has been really phenomenal. There was an opportunity for us to see very different viewpoints depending on where you stand in the educational system. It was eye-opening. There was an incredible time put into this, and I feel that I gained an incredible amount of information about where we are strong in this district and areas that need to be changed through this collaborative effort. I just wanted to add that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's a nice summary, Donna.
It really was. Again, the TAFEs, the 4 TAFEs that were designed, the AOA sent us the questions and said, what are you going to do about this? So we as a team said, okay, these are the things that we're going to do or we're going to try to implement. So that was the TAFEs. The next section was areas of concern related to the indicator. These were things that may be heard by one person or by one staff member, so they weren't triangulated. There weren't 3 sources that said this, but they thought these are areas of concern. There were several areas of concern. We picked out a couple to review. They heard from many staff and parents regarding the concern of greater mental health services within the schools to address current and growing needs for both students and families. We agree with that too. We think we need more mental health services within our schools and our community. They didn't ask us to come up with any design of what we're going to do about this. They just wanted to say, we're concerned about it. And we definitely agree. We're concerned about it too. Special educators at the high school level must maintain their highly qualified status in all subject areas for the highest grade level of the students they teach in which they provide graduation credit. For example, a special education teacher teaching a resource room math must be highly qualified in 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th grade math, even though they may be teaching a student who is on the 3rd, 4th, or 5th grade level. They have to maintain the grade level equivalency. And in resource room, you may have a teacher in high school level teaching math, social studies, science, and English. So they would have to be highly qualified in all 4 areas. So that was a concern. There are high numbers of students referred for occupational therapy evaluations at the elementary levels. We agree, there are. We also feel like this is one of the things that we do to prevent students from needing occupational therapy and interventions later. So if we're catching it early, we're doing preventative services, so there's not a burden of it, or not a burden, there's not a need for it later, because we're getting the students when they're younger. Again, these were just a few areas of concern. The third part of the whole focus monitoring report was noncompliance and related requirements. And what this is they gave us specific names. For example, Wendy Pierce is on an IEP. Her IEP was out of date by 3 days. So we had to go back and say why that IEP was out of date by 3 days. Did the IEP team just not get together within those 3 days? Were there snow days within those 3 days that it was out of compliance? What was the reasoning behind why it was late? So they gave us a list of problems that they found out of compliance, and I listed a few of them here. Initials for required evaluation planning team members were not documented on 3 completed reports. So out of the 60, there were 3 that they saw that didn't have the initials of all the required team members. The disability on the current individualized education program for one student did not match that of the last evaluation report. So if you've ever seen an IEP on the front page, it says disability, and then they say specific learning disability and reading. And what they're saying was that didn't match what the evaluation report had said. So again, out of 60, there was one that this was noted on. The initiation and duration dates for one student were not broken out so as to identify each school year individually or to reflect student eligibility for extended year services. Again, if you've ever seen the front of an IEP, there are 3 sections for days. Our sections usually go from the beginning of the school year or when the IEP meeting was held to the end of the school year, and then there's a break, and then it goes from the beginning of the next school year to when the IEP meeting date was held, and then there's a little slot for extended year services or summer services. And they were saying those didn't match. That it actually, the IEP was written from the IEP date to the next year, that there wasn't the breakup for the summer services.
Thank you, Wendy, for explaining this.
The improvement plan process, I won't read this, but basically what they said, here's what we want you to do. We want you to do it within a given time, get busy. So that's what we did. We took the information, we looked at it, we said, how can we do this and how can we present it to our school boards, to our district, our districts, our supervisory union, so that we make improvements. And the AOE said, you know, you do have guidelines. You can't just put together one little booklet and say, you know, here we're done. They want to see that we're actually doing things. And one of the things that the team has agreed to so graciously, and I thank them, is that we're going to continue to meet periodically. We're going to make a timeline of all the things that we've described that we're going to do and meet every once in a while and say, how are we on this? Did we meet this deadline? Are we moving forward? Do we need to come back together as a group and you know, work together to figure something out? So I think that's an important thing.
Thank you, Wendy. We do have to, yeah, we have to watch time.
Very good, very informative report, but I wanted to ask, did your committee meet with the parents that came before the supervisory union with various questions and concerns? At any point while your committee was meeting, did they make an attempt to meet with those people to speak to their concerns that maybe have been brought up tonight?
It was, that we didn't know the parents of who were in the meeting. It was,
Actually, I can answer that. The AOE did. The Agency of Education actually had a meeting with some of those parents, and the parents were able to very poignantly share with them. And in fact, some of these last pieces in which you saw that the concerns were not triangulated, they were actually taken from those complaints and those observations and poignant stories. So I think that in that way, because they had to respond to them in their consideration as a committee, I don't know if they actually invited those parents to come, but certainly as we monitor, I think that we can touch base with those parents and see how we're doing.
Would it not be a good idea to get Lori and her committee, interested parents, to be involved in this, because we were getting a lot of questions and concerns, and you've been able to speak to many of those, but it would be nice to know that they were somehow contacted and were made a part of this.
I would definitely agree. We weren't given the names, so we went on the anonymity of those. So we just worked on the groupings that we had. And I will say, having the, again, reiterate what Ms. McKenzie King said, having the parents, so many parents on our committee was invigorating. It really gave us a new perspective. And I apologize for taking so much time.
Thanks.
Thank you.
I have one question. What are the duties and functions of an occupational therapist in this setting?
In the special education setting?
Yeah.
They do a wide variety of motor skills, sensory breaks. They address students' physical needs for occupational therapy. Like, for example, a student may have a writing disability, like they struggle with writing, they can address that.
Physically.
A student may have a physical disability,
Okay.
they address those things.
Thank you.
Larry?
Larry and then Cindy.
Good report, Wendy, and you folks. I really appreciate it. A lot of information, and I apologize if I missed the answer. I've got a couple of broad-based questions. In the initial report, there were some concerns raised that I was surprised weren't addressed in the follow-up report. Obviously, you didn't have to because they weren't part of the requirements. But one thing we talked about on a local level is the reduction, the actual reduction in IEPs. So do you see the implementation of this plan will actually help accomplish that?
I do.
Okay.
It's the compliance piece, it's following through with all the pieces that we need to make sure that are occurring to help our students move forward.
Okay.
So I do see that it's going to be a reduction, more services for our students through programs like MTSS, the multi-tiered systems, sorry, I apologize.
The interventions.
The interventions through the multi-tiered systems of support. I believe as we get into those more and as we move forward with making sure we're in compliance and following through with all the pieces that we need to in IEPs, we are going to see a reduction of students on IEPs.
Another area that they brought up in an extensive way in the report was the actual scores. So in effect, are we addressing that as well? That in the implementation of the plan, then we can expect to see scores, level of scores change as well?
Scores on like kneecaps?
Yeah, exactly.
I think it's difficult just to predict. I think as we get better with delivering services, the hope is definitely you're going to raise student performance.
Right.
I think it's difficult to predict because if you have a student who is severely disabled in like the area of reading, we may bring them from a first grade level to a 7th grade level, which is incredible growth. But will they be able to perform at a proficient level on the kneecap? I can't say that. But I think the data that we're going to present, saying that we're bringing students from lower levels in reading and lower levels in math up to much higher levels, much higher growth levels, will help to look at that data more objectively.
Okay. Well, I think we're just looking for a little wiggle in the needle to indicate something's going on and it's in direct relationship to the implementation of that plan. The other question is related to cost. I saw nothing in the proposal that said we can expect to see some sort of cost associated with this plan.
And again, I have to go back. The charge of this group was not to determine budget or financial.
Okay.
It was almost, in a perfect world, and anything is possible, what would make everything work perfectly. So we did not even consider how much it would cost for an associate director or how much it would cost for a head teacher. We just looked at what would make us in compliance. I think the next piece, again, goes back to the personnel committee, us talking with our districts and the school boards about how we can implement those individuals or those the concerns that we've addressed through that in the next steps.
Well, the state has just released the 2015 budget book. In there, we spent $165 million last year in special ed. And I know that's broken up in a variety of ways, but this year the allocation is $176 million. So I'm wondering if that kind of includes us, maybe associated costs or additional costs that we're going to incur in doing this. Are the folks upstate kind of baking that in the cake for us a little bit? Do you see a... Okay.
I can't answer for the AOE.
Okay. Well, I didn't know if a conversation had taken place and perhaps the way has been paved to say, no, if you're on the straight and narrow with your plan, then the resources will be available to support it.
And I don't have enough conversation with the chief financial people at the AOE to address that.
Okay, thank you.
Cindy?
The only thing I wanted to say is, first of all, thank you to the committee for the time and dedication to do this. This is quite extensive. My only suggestion is that when you do create a handbook, that maybe you want to, supply it to the SU board so we understand what the book is all about.
Yeah.
That I think is a great suggestion.
Thank you.
Okay.
That's all I have.
Okay, Avis.
Just a quick thing now has occurred to me. Obviously, we want to give our SPED students the best possible education we can give them, and is demanded for us by the state and the parents, rightly so. Okay. Now, we also want to get them into the general population as soon and as much as we can, which is a good thing. A general population is where they will hopefully live their lives and work in the future. Fine. However, now, you brought up a good question. Simply because you take a child and raise them several grade levels and say their reading ability, we know we have improved them for their future in the community. But, and I think everyone follows what I'm going to say next. They may not test well, and often this sort of extra stress is just the sort of thing that our SPED children collapse when they are approached on it. So what will then happen if they are in the general classroom, the general test scores will be going down. How can we deal with this?
Test anxiety.
And I think a lot of it is, and I believe that people are starting to move towards this more and more, is understanding that test anxiety and helping students recognize what kind of things that they can do to reduce that. I think a lot of people do that naturally. For a student with high test anxiety, once they get into that cycle, they don't know how to break it. So we practice with them. We say, we're going to give you a pop test on Thursday. And then when they start doing it, say, okay, let's talk about this. Why are you anxious? Do you know them? So we start practicing with them. We start giving them strategies to reduce their anxieties. We give them a part of the test. Maybe we only give them one page of the test. So there's all kinds of strategies that we can start using to help those students start to regulate that themselves. So I think that's one of the biggest parts, is just practicing with them. It's the same as we would do with reading or math or any of their disabilities. We practice and give them strategies to overcome that or work through it.
Ray?
What's the, maybe I missed this in the presentation, but what's the strategy for continuing feedback on what progress has been made and what progress is lacking, given that you have a group of people that have been very involved in this? And you're talking about 3 years down the road when they check us again for compliance. But in the meantime, there's continuous improvement that could happen, or discrete continuous improvement, and that would be mediated by this group and people in the staff who are staffing and dealing with parents.
And I hope with the associate directors, the director of special education, that kind of thing will go on. Actually, Ernie Wheeler from the AOE came down on Monday and did a mini-focused monitoring with me. We pulled 10 files, looked through the files, went through it. We were much improved. He gave me about 5 pointers to look for, of just kind of reminders that we need to do. So I was so encouraged by that. And I think that's what's going to continue to happen. We're going to invite the AOE down again and say, give us 10 names, we're going to pull the files, and we'll go through that, and he'll continue to help support us. They have a kind of a cheat sheet that they go through, and they check off things that are there, they check off things that need to be concerned. They give me those, and I start to address those with staff members. I can go specifically to one staff member, or I can have a whole school staff and go through another, like the mini trainings. I think Ms. Pringle talked about it, the mini trainings that are going to go on at the school level. So I think it's going to just be continually us doing checks with the AOE and with other groups, and then hopefully just me reporting back to this group, and they being a source to help me look at how we can move these things forward, because they were a great source of ideas of how to do those things.
Thank you. Okay, I got to cut it off.
Yeah, I'm so sorry.
No, that's, Wendy is very good and informational.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next, Donna.
And thank you for this next group for your long wait and patience. Thank you.
Yes, our great supportive team is here, and thank you for the opportunity. I just would like to give a short presentation on our proposal for the purchase of math resources aligned with the Common Core. We, like this wonderful committee that's been working, our team of math representatives from all the buildings have been working since early October to look at what we have been using in the SU in all of our schools in terms of math resources for teaching students, how it aligns with the Common Core. And they looked at that, did a survey of the use, and found that it was a critical need area that we really should focus a study on to evaluate what would be the next best steps. So I'd like to introduce Pat Conway. She's going to just give a short presentation on our process and the members of the team.
Pat is our teacher leader for mathematics.
I'm the mathematics teacher leader for the SVSU, my fancy title. Folks say, well, what do you do? I know if you're thinking that, and do a real short 10-second. I provide embedded professional development for classroom teachers, resource room teachers that invite me into their classroom. I'm an invitation, or principal can direct me to work with a particular teacher. And that's all I do is mathematics all day long, every day. It's probably the coolest job in the whole SVSU. There are 19 members on our math curriculum committee. We represent K to 8, and we have one high school person with us. It's Katie Schoenbeck, who's also with us as part of our team. With me tonight are some folks from middle school and the elementaries. Representing our Molly Stark folks and special education is Kim Miller, who's a pretty busy person being on both committees. Kim was one of the folks who particularly focused on the RTI program, RTI, Response to Intervention. You're probably familiar with that in the literacy world. Well, this Go Math program that we're hoping you'll support tonight has an RTI intervention program. It works in grade bands, the early elementary, the middle elementary, the later elementary, and the middle school. So it's specific for targeting intervention needs. Over here, we have some middle school folks. We have Christy Whitman and Chung Sablat from our middle school. They're on the committee. You representation of the 19, and Rachel Kipp from BSD from the Bennington Elementary. We do have Pownell folks, we do have Bedell folks, we do have Woodford folks.
And Shaftesbury.
And Shaftesbury. These are the folks that were able to make it tonight. So we started in October of what our needs were. What do we need to do to get in line with the Common Core as far as programs? When the Common Core was first rolled out publicly in 2010, we got right on it. We started developing a 3-year transition plan that had staggered goals. Expectations were for June of 2012, June of 2013, and then this year, June of 2014, we are fully transitioned in. There were 5 documents that were going to get us there. Along with those changing expectations for June 12, 13, and 14, the Math Curriculum Committee kept in step with expectations and the report cards. So as our end-of-year expectations for math increased, aligned with the Common Core, so did the report card. So it was a very busy committee. Rachel is going to pass out or hand out to folks the results of our survey that looked at what are folks using within their classrooms for math instruction.
Thank you.
The program of record is the Addison Wesley Mathematics program, the K-8 program. The Bridges program was begun as Bridges in Mathematics. That series was begun as a pilot program. In some buildings, all classrooms. In some buildings, it was only in a few. I'll give you a minute to look at that. I'm sorry, I think I can certainly email you one if you like. So we saw from this survey that there was inconsistency within the SVSU, inconsistency within buildings, buildings that had multiple grade levels, there's inconsistency. Well, what are we going to do about it? We're going to look at a program. We consulted Katie on this heavily, because the high school had gone through this process. We wanted to look at a program that was best going to suit the needs of all of our students in all of our buildings, K to 8. And Katie, could you say something about why K to 8 is so important?
Oh, I'll stand and say it because it's that important. Of course I have to dance, it's all been sitting, so. One of the things that we noticed at the high school is that when kids rise from the junior high to us, that they're coming to us from all kinds of different places and all kinds of different levels and needs. And the middle school does an amazing job of taking all the feeder schools and trying as much as possible to get the kids that are down here up to here, and the kids that are ready to fly, really ready to fly, but they still come to us like this. So we have to somehow get the kids that are like this, and they're ready to graduate in some reasonable sense and in some reasonable way be mathematically literate and ready to go out into the world. And our way of addressing that from classroom to classroom, from course to course, you probably heard me come and do my little song and dance about trying to raise the bar but support kids in reaching that bar. Part of the way that we went about doing that was to say, let's all be on the same textbook page when we're talking about solving systems of equations. Let's all be on the same textbook page when we're talking about probability or statistics. Let's be using the same kinds of language. Ray, you asked me about rigor the last time I was here. Let's have the same definition of what that means by being on the same textbook page when we're talking about rigor or about Common Core type problems. So we address that by adopting the Larson series so that all of our courses are taught, whether it's an algebra course or it's a calculus course with the same textbook.
So at the high school.
At the high school. So it was our recommendation that this has really helped us become more consistent and be able to raise kids up and support them in doing it. So that was my song and dance. But that's what we're recommending happen at the K through 8 level as well. So we're a huge district. We have a lot of kids. We have a lot of schools with a lot of different approaches, right, to what's important for kids. We need to have something that's shared so that I can go to Powell and have the same conversation about adding and subtracting that I can have in Shasta. So thank you very much.
The program series that our committee looked at, and Rachel has those results, which she'll hand out. The series, the programs are Go Math.
Thank you, Rachel.
2 Singapore-based strategies, Math and Focus, and Primary Mathematics. We looked at Saxon Math, we reviewed Bridges, and the Glencoe series. What's highlighted on your handout that Rachel almost has around everybody in blue says kindergarten through grade 8 curriculum, and whether or not this program met the Common Core state standards in mathematics. Those are separate because they're not part of the following 10. The following 10 criteria are the criteria from the publishers of the Common Core. That was the name of the document, 127, 100 and some odd pages that outline what a district or a supervisory union or at the state level, what should be looked at in determining a program that's going to be selected. What do you base it on? So our committee looked at those programs, and you can see the check marks there for what met and what didn't meet to the criteria. Our committee of 19 was split up into grade bands. We had a K-1-2 grade band, 3-4-5 grade band, and a 6-7-8 grade band. We looked at research-based documents for programs. I looked at what other states were using. The #1 state in the nation is Massachusetts. And the program that the majority of Massachusetts public school uses is Go Math. North Colony, South Colony, in our neighboring state of New York, Go Math.
So Go Math is consistent with Common Core,
Yes, yeah.
most consistent.
It's the most consistent. And it had the RTI program. One of the criteria, you notice, where's the meeting the needs of all students? Where's the intervention piece? That's not part of the criteria. But Go Math does have the RTI piece that meets the needs of all students. And Julie Monroe and Kim looked at that extensively. No, Julie's not here tonight. She's in Rutland somewhere doing some math review. But when I went to talk to her about, Julie, do you think you can come? She's a Bennell special education teacher. She said, Pat, ask my students. Julie has one of the sample kits. The representative from Go Math has been phenomenal in giving us samples and resources to use. She's using the response to intervention kit with her 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders at Bennell. They said, oh, Mrs. Conway, we love it. I am so smart with this program. They were pumped up for having success with it, and Julie likes it. She sees its benefit. It was really encouraging. She said I could say that.
Thank you, Pat and team, for working on this. I just would like to add that we have done a lot of research looking at the effectiveness of this program, and it's very encouraging to know that it doesn't just reach one segment of the population. It really has been very successful in lower-level achieving students, mid-level, and high-level. And it's very important that we have been looking at the middle school as well in ways that we can realign instruction so that students have the opportunities for more advanced placements that are leading into algebra. And this is a program that has accelerated materials as well as the regular classroom materials. So it's all aligned, it's for all of our students, and I think it's really an important move to help move our math achievement forward. I keep hearing from the community that that's a great drive for all of our workforce development, and it's one of our key elements is to have consistent, informative Common Core curriculums all the way through 8th grade. So I think that what we're asking for is a motion to approve this purchase. The proposal had the different funding sources for that. Much of the material, especially for the intervention, is coming from our federal title programs for all of the intervention materials and much of the professional development, and also from our curriculum line items that for some of the some of the resources that we have been able to move into our federal programs this year has left us a resource that we can use for this purchase. So.
Okay. Ed, you had a question?
Yeah, but I don't even want to get into it. I was going to ask why did we get into this problem to begin with, but second question, since we're going to have a motion.
That's big, Ed.
Yeah.
In a moment. The total cost is $172,500. How much of that is local and how much of it is grant funded?
It's on the proposal that we did post.
Thank you, sir.
I can find the local portion of that in.
I think Jim has it in his hand.
If you see the account numbers, you see the chart that's got the account numbers on it?
Yes.
Everything with a 100 fund, the first 3 numbers is local money, the 310 is grant money. And I don't have it in front of me, but the grant is about, what, 50,000 bucks?
Yeah.
The rest of it's local.
So the local cost is $120,000.
Correct.
And that is, that does include all of the teaching resources which are added to the program free of charge, and all of the student materials for 5 years. So it contains all of the consumables. And after 5 years, we will look at possibly moving into more web-based textbooks. This program does have many technology resources as well, and the middle school is going to evaluate next year to see if the e-textbook version of this is actually a better option for them with their one-on-one Chromebooks. So we're looking at a lot of different options for it in the future.
Okay, any other questions?
This is paid for by the supervisor, $122,000, then parceled back to the district later on.
Well, it's,
sort of.
all but 20,000 is out of this year's money, so it's already out of this year's assessment. 20,000, which went through the budgetary process, and we increased the curriculum material by $20,000 for this purchase and next year. So So that was vetted through the budget process.
Money's there, sort of.
Fran, I'd like to make the motion that we move to accept the recommendation to go out and purchase the Go Math.
Second.
Okay.
That's a question.
Okay, Larry?
I think you've answered this in the scorecard that you've presented tonight. I came in with a lot of reservations about this particular program, and Donna will know why, because it has Common Core attached to it. But you can put all those fears aside if you can say, would we have selected this program without any consideration towards Common Core? Would this have been, okay, and you're unified in that. Okay, I haven't heard from Shasberry, either our board members or the people that participated in this election, so I'll take your word for it that if they had the opportunity, they'd step forward and say, this is the program we need to go with.
This is the best match for us.
You have a motion on the floor.
Well, that's a discussion.
I know, but you have
Okay.
to accept.
Everybody else, was there a second? Didn't hear.
Yeah.
Oh, you did, okay. All right, so I don't have to read this, okay. I don't have to read this.
Leon read it.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Okay, all in favor of the motion? Okay. Any noes? Any abstentions?
Abstention.
Okay, 2 abstentions. Richard? Okay.
Thank you so much, and thank you for your approval.
sorry,
It's really
Katie?
important.
I just wanted to put a bookmark on your question about how did we get here, because I think that's an important question to consider as we're moving forward. This is a huge expenditure, and we want to take it very seriously and get the most out of that. So I'd like to come back to that question. Not today.
So you're committing that the committee will come back and report?
I'm in
Excellent.
favor of a lessons learned study
Yes,
type
yes.
thing.
Thank
on
you.
all of these problems.
Lori?
I just wanted to be a process observer for a second and just mention, I'm not too sure that the presentation was over for the focus monitoring group, because I know that a couple other people were going to speak, and I just wanted to see it mentioned it to the board, that's all.
Okay, I didn't notice there was anybody. I'll apologize if
Oh,
I
yeah.
missed somebody.
Well, I think because of the time factor,
Oh.
Wendy, were there portions of the comments that you were not able to have people present?
We were pretty close. I think our presenters got through the most part of it. The biggest part was the taffies.
Was there anyone on the, may I, Fran?
Yeah, no, fine.
Was there anyone on the committee that wanted to make a statement or just briefly, that didn't have the chance to share? I appreciate being told that. Just want to make sure. Okay, thank you. And thank you all, both committees, for your work. It's been
Yes,
very
it's
thorough, wonderful work, and it is moving us forward with great honesty about the shortcomings that we need to improve upon, and recognition of the commendations as well. So thank you.
Okay. Okay, next, finance operations related. Treasurer's report. Any questions on the treasurer's report?
Need a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
George moved it, Leon seconded it. All in favor? Okay. unanimous. Heritage Family Credit Union, action request. Rick?
Yeah, in your packet, you'll see a corporate resolution. We uncovered a dormant account at Heritage Credit Union. It's got about $800 in it. It's not, don't get excited, there's not a lot of money there. The signers authorized on the account no longer work for the supervisory union. I need this board to put that account under control of the treasurer, and the assistant treasurer is authorized signees per statute. So hopefully there can be a motion to waive the reading. Unfortunately, I see the only board officer here, I think, is the vice chair, so instead of the board clerk, the motion is to authorize the vice chair to execute.
The clerk is here.
So moved.
I thought.
Dave Durfee is the clerk.
Not me.
So, to authorize, waive the reading, authorize the vice chair to sign the resolution as well as any other pertinent bank documentation such as signature cards as deemed necessary.
Oh, well, so moved.
Leon moved, George seconded.
I have a comment.
Jim?
I notice it refers to the supervisory union as a corporation, which it is not. So it makes a difference or not.
It's just that the banks don't understand.
Okay, well, we're not a corporation.
Some of the municipality of the districts, but I understand that, and I'll make the correction for them.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, Avis?
What is the plan for this account? Obviously, if you've just discovered it, it's lying dormant. Are you planning simply on closing it and moving it elsewhere?
The expectation is it'll be closed, it'll be brought into the general fund as miscellaneous income, and it'll be a short stay.
So in other words, the signatories aren't going to have too much work for too long?
Probably one signature.
What was it for in the first place?
It was originally, well, through my quizzing my historical employee at the office, it was originally used for criminal background checks when, I guess way back when, at some point when it started, that people actually had to pay, so they paid in and we paid out and we kept it in a separate account for some reason. But that hasn't happened in quite some time, so we're just going to take it in as miscellaneous income.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second. All in favor? Unanimous. Okay. Hey, Avis, I'm sorry.
Okay, you brought up the question of criminal backgrounds, et cetera. I did notice a line item here for fingerprinting. May I ask, what's it costing us now to get a set of fingerprints done by the state police?
I don't know exactly, I think it's 25 bucks.
Oh, okay.
Don't quote me on that.
So the figure that was down there was actually for several?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Actually, I think we get billed quarterly on that. I don't even think it's monthly.
Yeah. Just checking on that one.
No problem.
Okay. Okay, so that's set. Now, do we still need this executive session?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Under new business, we're going to have
No, consent agenda.
under the consent agenda, sorry. We're going to have a brief executive session
Very brief.
for F, and it's for personnel on the consent agenda.
Need a motion?
So we need a motion and a second.
Motion to move to executive session.
Okay, that's Cindy.
Second it.
And Leon. Okay, where are we going to go?
Can't wait till the end?
We're going to go into the conference room
Before
very
you approve
briefly,
it,
and you have Joy.
Okay. We are back. We don't need a motion or a second, I believe. Dan, you all set?
I did.
Yep.
I mean, to get out of executive session. And
Go ahead, are you moving it?
We've already did it down there.
Oh, okay, all right, good. We're back in open session. Okay. And the next would be the consent agenda. And anything on the minutes?
You want to do it all at once?
Yeah, I'd like to do it all at once if we
So
could.
I'll move
Yeah.
that we accept the consent agenda.
Second. Okay.
Does that include the warrants?
Warrants, everything, yeah, on the consent agenda.
I'm not, since we just had this executive session on this issue, I would like to separate out the Director of Special Education nomination.
Okay, we can do that.
Yep, I'll go back and.
You amend the motion and amend the second?
What's being removed?
The
nomination of B.
6B.
Well, he wants, I'm sorry, go ahead, Ray. Just explain what you want to do.
I want to remove the nomination under 6B, and do it separately.
6B?
That's the Director of Special Education.
Oh.
Yep. Okay, anybody got a problem with that? Okay, should be okay? All right. So we'll do that, so anything on the minutes, anything on the warrants?
I have one question on the warrants. I have several, but I forgot what they were, and I forgot to bring my cheat sheet where I wrote down notes. But there was one item in there, it was $200 for coffee. Is that for 1 month?
Yes.
Who are we giving coffee to for?
Central office, they've been doing it.
Well, it's central office, school board meetings there, but we also have a contributions that then get applied as well, so.
To make it feel any better, it's not me, because I don't drink coffee.
So what's the net, if there's the contributions that are made?
Not much less than $200.
They got some money that comes in.
Okay, so now we have resignations. Yeah. Okay, do we do those separate?
No, he's only taken the 6B
Okay, all right.
off, so you can ask for a motion for the remaining, all but 6B.
Make a motion to accept the remaining.
Okay.
Second.
All right, so it's Jim O'Connor and George Sleeman?
I already did it.
Okay, that's what I thought, but I wasn't sure. Okay.
Two mistakes he's made.
All right, all in favor of that motion?
Which,
The first one.
The first one.
The first one.
Everything except 6B.
Except 6B, okay? All right.
Was that unanimous?
no.
Yeah.
That wasn't
No,
6B, was,
No, that wasn't 6B, that
no,
was for...
that was for the whole
for-
consent
yes.
agenda.
So,
Right.
What happened there?
Wait a second.
everybody in favor?
Of the original
Consent
motion?
agenda.
Yes.
Without the...
Without six?
Out 6B.
Okay, yeah,
Right.
Yeah.
I was for it.
Okay.
That was not unanimous.
Okay, you,
One
no.
abstention,
Okay.
maybe.
Abstentions?
Did you abstain?
No, I didn't
No.
abstain, no. I
You're
thought
the only
we were-
one that
I thought we
abstained.
were double checking again.
You're the-
Okay.
Why did you abstain?
He's the only one, Larry's the only one who
Yeah.
abstained.
Okay,
Thank you, Richard.
all right.
Now a motion for 6B.
All right, now I need a motion for 6B,
I make the motion.
Seconded.
okay? That's Cindy and Jim O'Connor. Okay, all in favor of that motion? Any no? One, that's Ray?
Yep.
Okay, no abstentions, so
Thank
we're
you.
all set there. All right. Okay, policies, there are none. Superintendent's report.
I'll be brief. My report was today's presentations on the focus monitoring and the mathematics request for approval of the purchase and your information about the change in the curriculum, the revision of the curriculum and the purchase of the materials, the selection. But I also want to thank everyone who, throughout the SVSU, who participated in the Career Week. It was one of our strongest, our second annual, and we're working with the town and the various workforce and economic development groups to continue that. So thank you. And I would, at this time, just like to move into another area. As you know, the BSD has a failed budget and has met since your last SVSU meeting to set and warn the date of the vote for the BSD FY15 budget. That date is May 6th. Because of that date, we must ask ask for a motion in our preparation for a reduction in force of teachers at the SVSU level for special education teachers that are employed by you as an employing board at the SU. The motion would be to approve a reduction in force for 21 SVSU special education positions. And that would be if
If the budget fails.
If the budget failed, we would issue reduction in force letters. Of course, we're hoping not. We're in a very positive place with that budget. There have been some reductions by the board, as well as we're watching the state legislature and their home-based tax. So we're in a good position for strong support. We're hoping it will be there, but we have to have a motion of the board to approve a reduction in force should that budget fail
So
for
moved.
21 positions.
That's George and Leon. All in favor of that motion? Okay, any no votes? Dick?
Thank you.
Ready.
Chair's report?
Okay. The only thing I had, I don't have my packet for the VSBA, but what I did want to talk about is the last legislative breakfast we had on April 7th. A lot of the legislators showed up, and what they're asking is, instead of finding out what they're doing, we kind of know what they're doing, going through the banner stuff, they'd like to know what the board members and administration need in the school system. And I thought that would be better than sitting there and wasting a lot of time listening to what they've been doing, because we mostly know what's coming on and the everything else. So if any board members have something they would like the legislators to know about their school district or whatever, if you need something, then we can, I usually go, Larry goes, other people go there, so it's be pertinent to have something, or give it to me or somebody, or the superintendent, and we would get that to them, so.
Yes, thank you.
When's the next one?
Next legislative breakfast, I believe, is June 2nd. And that's at 7:45 at central office.
Thank you, Fran. You had one other item?
Yep. And this will go back to Lori Mulhern. The interim superintendent search. For the past month, the SVSU Board has been conducting a search for an interim superintendent. The vacancy was advertised on School Spring, an internet resource commonly used by public schools to advertise for public school positions. Numerous applications were received, and earlier this week, the board interviewed several candidates. It is now completing its due diligence on final candidates and hopes to be able to make a final selection within the next 2 weeks. So we are looking at it. We know it's very important, so we've been doing our work, so, okay?
And there'll be a special meeting, most likely, scheduled to take up that appointment.
Right, yeah. Okay. Next SVSU meeting will be Wednesday, May 28th and June 25th. Have that. In your packet, there's the SVSU student enrollment. There's the SVSU budget status report, and the State of Vermont AOE, we're going to defer that, the audit letter, for our next meeting?
Yep.
Okay. And we do have an executive session for teacher negotiations. I'll need a motion.
So moved.
Second.
George and Ed.
We're not
I'm sorry.
coming back in here.
Rick, you had something?
No, Rick's to be included in the executive session.
Can you touch on it lightly? Can you just readdress the assistant superintendent search? I think you said you were going to add.
The assistant superintendent search, the resignation was just accepted at this meeting this evening, and the board previously had wished to hold off on that search until a superintendent was named. So that's what's happening.
I'd like, can I make a motion?
Go ahead.
I'd like to make a motion that we accept Donna Leap's resignation with regret.
Oh, nice. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
I wouldn't accept it at all.
I personally was thinking if this was the Army, we could shoot her for desertion.
That was George. Who made the second?
I'll second it.
Okay.
Leon.
All right, very good.
Well, thank you all.
And take a vote.
Thank
Well,
you.
you don't need to take a vote. It's fine.
Okay.
Gotta
You have to
work.
vote, yes, you have to vote.
All in favor of the
Accept it with
resolution?
regret. Your motion is really to have it recorded as with regret
Thank you.
There you go.
in the minutes. In the
Okay.
minutes, Richard, just recorded as regret.
Want a motion for executive?
I think that's on
It's
there.
already,
isn't it? Okay.
it's already been done.
Let's call for a vote on
All right, all in
executive.
favor of the executive session? Okay.
And we need Joy and Rick in that
And
session.
we need Joy Cox
Coming
and
back
Richard
here?
Clement.
No, we're not coming back, are we?
No, I'm not. You can.